This is the first installment in a new series called The Hinterkaifeck of America, where I'll be exploring lesser-known or forgotten American Heimer scenes. Since I already covered the Hinterkaifeck in Germany in a previous episode, I thought it only made sense to turn my attention to America's most infamous home invasion-turned-massacre, the 1912 Villisca Axe Murders. On June 10, 1912, George and Anna Geister moved into a large farmhouse located at the corner of 10th and Union in the small town of Villisca, Iowa. The couple had two children of their own, 6-year-old Catherine and 4-year-old Mary, but they also had 5 other children living with them, 3 boys and 2 girls, who were the children of Anna's sister Lizzie and her husband John. They were an ordinary family living an ordinary life, or at least they were for most of 1912. Trouble began in early June when someone broke into the farm's tool shed and stole an axe. At the time, the family believed the culprit was a traveling salesman who had recently tried to scam them. But that theory quickly fell apart, and the axe was never recovered. Then on the night of June 9th, or the early morning of June 10th, an unknown assailant broke into the Geister family home through a window and proceeded to attack the family with an axe. George was in the living room when he heard the first blow struck against his wife's head as she slept in the bedroom. He got up to investigate and was confronted by a man wearing a mask. The two struggled until the intruder knocked George unconscious. He then attacked the children in the west bedroom, killing them all except for 2-year-old Mary, who survived by playing dead. After killing the children, the murderer or murderers returned to the east bedroom, where Anna had awakened and was hiding under the bed. The killer or killers then set fire to the house and fled. Little Mary survived by crawling out a window and hiding in some nearby bushes. She was eventually discovered by neighbors who had been alerted to the fire and rushed to the scene. Although badly burned and suffering from smoke inhalation, Mary survived the ordeal. Sadly, the same could not be said about the rest of the Geister family and their niece and nephew. Their bodies were discovered in the rubble after the fire was extinguished. Although the house had been completely destroyed, the crime scene revealed several pieces of evidence that led investigators to believe the fire had been started with kerosene. Furthermore, there were no signs of forced entry and nothing appeared to be stolen, leading investigators to conclude that the motive for the crime was not robbery. But perhaps, even stranger than that, was the fact that 2 of the victims still had their heads on their pillows when firefighters arrived on the scene, suggesting that they may have been killed after the fire had already started. What makes this case particularly strange is that there were apparently no enemies of the family, nor any known motives for why anyone would want to hurt them. George had been a well-liked farmer who had served in the Spanish-American War. And although the family had recently had some financial difficulties due to a failed business venture, this did not appear to be a sufficient motive for such a heinous crime. To this day, the Villisca murders remain unsolved. Over the years, there have been many theories as to who may have committed the crime and why, but no one knows for sure. This has left the small town of Villisca wondering if they'll ever know what really happened to the poor family on that fateful night in June. In the end, I think we can all agree that whatever happened to them was a terrible tragedy. The ghosts of the Axemen still haunt the town of Villisca, Iowa, and perhaps they always will. That concludes the first installment in the series. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to see more just like it, let me know by commenting below. Be sure to comment your city as well, because depending on how this first episode does, I may share the next story from your area. Thank you so much for watching. All the sources used are added in the description box below. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and join the family. I'll see you next time.